Ethan Hartley stood beneath the dim glow of the gallery's entrance lights, raindrops tracing cold paths down his cheeks as the city's relentless drizzle soaked through his overcoat. The murmur of distant traffic intertwined with the patter of rain, creating a melancholic symphony that mirrored the turmoil within his heart. The imposing facade of the Astoria Gallery loomed before him, a sanctuary of creativity that both beckoned and intimidated. As a state police officer, Ethan was accustomed to the sterile corridors of justice, the black and white certainties of law enforcement. Yet beneath the badge and uniform lay a yearning unfulfilled, a love for art that he had long suppressed, a passion sidelined by duty and practicality. Tonight, that silent desire led him here, where professional obligation and personal longing would collide in ways he could scarcely imagine. Inside, the gallery was a labyrinth of shadows and light, each room a world unto itself. The polished marble floors reflected the soft glow of strategically placed lamps, casting elongated silhouettes that danced at the periphery of vision. Ethan moved purposefully among the sparse crowd, his keen eyes scanning for anything out of place. A series of inexplicable thefts had unnerved the city's elite. Priceless artworks were vanishing without signs of forced entry or discernible patterns. His superiors had assigned him the case, recognizing his meticulous nature and unyielding determination. Yet, as he meandered through the exhibits, he couldn't help but be drawn into the pieces themselves. Oil paintings, sculptures, and avant-garde installations spoke to him with silent voices, their stories unfolding in color and form. An unsettling energy permeated the air, a tension that prickled at the edges of his consciousness. It felt as though the art was watching him, appraising him with the same scrutiny he allotted to his investigation. Then, in a secluded alcove veiled by heavy velvet drapes, Ethan stumbled upon a painting that made his breath catch. The canvas was large, consuming the entire wall, and depicted an anatomical dissection with unnerving detail. The scene was visceral yet hauntingly beautiful. The surgeon's hands rendered with veins and tendons so precise they seemed to throb with life. His eyes were dark hollows, fixated on his work with a mix of obsession and something more sinister. The subject on the table bore an eerie familiarity. As Ethan studied the face contorted in a silent scream, realization struck him like a physical blow. It was his own likeness staring back, a mirror image captured in oil and pigment. A wave of nausea and disbelief surged within him, but he couldn't tear his gaze away. The air grew colder, the ambient sounds of the gallery fading into a muffled abyss. Time seemed to distort, each heartbeat echoing like a drum in his ears as he stood transfixed. Over the following days, Ethan found himself inexorably drawn back to the gallery, the painting calling to him like a siren song. His investigation into the thefts became entangled with his obsession over the mysterious artwork. Sleep became a luxury he could no longer afford. When he did succumb to exhaustion, his dreams were plagued by fragmented images, the cold gleam of surgical instruments, the sensation of blades slicing through flesh, whispers in an unintelligible language that left him waking in a cold sweat. At work, his colleagues noticed the change. The once diligent and composed officer now appeared disheveled, his eyes sunken and haunted. Reports piled up on his desk untouched, and he responded to inquiries with distracted nods. Concerned, his partner Maria confronted him, her eyes searching his for answers. "You're not yourself, Ethan. Talk to me." He brushed her off, forcing a strained smile. "Just the pressures of the case," he lied, though deep down he knew something was profoundly wrong. Desperate for answers, Ethan delved into the gallery's history and the origins of the unsettling painting. Late nights were spent hunched over old newspapers, archives, and obscure art journals. His research led him to Aleister Crane, a 19th-century artist shrouded in mystery and whispers of scandal. Crane was renowned for his unparalleled skill, but notorious for his reclusive nature and macabre subjects. Rumors suggested that he delved into dark rituals, using his art to bind souls and transcend mortality. His final work, titled The Transcendence, was said to capture the very essence of his subjects, trapping them within the canvas. Shortly after its completion, Crane vanished without a trace, and those associated with him met untimely and inexplicable ends. As Ethan connected the threads, a chilling realization settled upon him. The dates of Crane's disappearances aligned with unsolved cases eerily similar to the thefts he was investigating. The painting was not merely a work of art, it was a doorway. One stormy night, driven by a mix of fear, curiosity, and a sense of impending doom, Ethan resolved to confront the source of his torment. He convinced the gallery owner to grant him access after hours, under the guise of advancing the investigation. The gallery was eerily silent, the usual warmth replaced by a palpable dread. Shadows stretched across the walls like grasping hands, and the faint scent of turpentine mingled with something acrid, metallic. As he approached the painting, he noticed changes. A slight tilt of the surgeon's head, a new glint in his eye, a shift in the expression of the figure on the table. His own features in the painting now bore a look of profound despair, eyes wide with terror that mirrored his own. A low hum resonated in the room, growing louder with each step he took. His heartbeat synchronized with the pulsing sound until it was deafening. Compelled by a force beyond his control, Ethan reached out and pressed his palm against the cold surface of the canvas. A shock rippled through him, and the world around dissolved into darkness. When his vision cleared, Ethan found himself enveloped in a chilling reality. The stench of antiseptic and decay filled his nostrils, and he realized with mounting horror that he was inside the very scene of the painting. He lay strapped to the cold operating table, restraints biting into his wrists and ankles. Above him, the surgeon loomed, a gaunt figure with eyes like black voids devoid of humanity. "Welcome, Ethan," the surgeon intoned, his voice a hollow echo that reverberated through the sterile room. "I've been waiting to complete my masterpiece." Terror surged through him as the surgeon raised a gleaming scalpel, the blade reflecting the dim light. "This isn't real," Ethan screamed, thrashing against the binds that held him. The surgeon's smile widened, revealing teeth that were unnaturally sharp. "Reality is but a canvas," he whispered, "and you, Officer Hartley, are my final brushstroke." As the blade descended, a searing pain ripped through Ethan, his screams merging with a cacophony of voices, souls trapped long before him. Back in the tangible world, Maria grew increasingly alarmed by Ethan's unexplained absence. Her calls went unanswered, and his apartment remained untouched. Driven by concern, she retraced his steps, eventually arriving at the Astoria Gallery. The curator greeted her with a practiced smile, but unease gnawed at her gut. As she wandered through the gallery, her attention was drawn to a new addition, a painting she hadn't seen before. The canvas depicted an anatomical dissection, and at the center lay Ethan, rendered with haunting accuracy. His eyes seemed to follow her, pleading, desperate. A chill seized her as she realized the figure on the table was not just a painting, it was a prison. "A remarkable piece, isn't it?" the curator remarked, appearing at her side. "One of Crane's finest." Maria stared in horror, words failing her. A faint whisper seemed to emanate from the painting, Ethan's voice echoing in her mind. "Help me." She stumbled back, heart racing. But when she turned to the curator, His eyes had taken on that same abyssal blackness she knew too well. Fear gripped her, but a steely resolve settled in. "What have you done with him?" she demanded. The curator's lips curled into an unnatural smile. "He has been immortalized," he replied softly. "Would you like to join him?" Maria fled, the gallery's shadows seeming to reach for her as she burst into the rain-soaked night. Her calls for help were met with confusion. The gallery insisted no such painting existed, and records of Alistair Crane were mysteriously expunged. The thefts ceased, and the case was declared closed. But for those who knew Ethan Hartley, a void remained, a mystery unsolved and unacknowledged. The gallery continued to display its cursed artwork to those who sought it, ensnaring the gaze of unsuspecting patrons. Somewhere within the depths of the canvas, Ethan's silent screams echoed, a warning to all who dared look too closely. Yet the world moved on, blissfully ignorant of the souls trapped in art, bound by the strokes of a madman's brush.